I've been really naughty. I've named this short talk Hit and Run. And it's how people sometimes approach either change activities or even designing events or even delivering at them. And I'll give you the examples. So last week I was at a conference, and it's an annual conference for a client. And once a year, the chief executive gets on stage and he tells them the vision for the year. Tells them the vision for the year, and then he does make it so. That's what I call a hit and run. They've basically got the message going out, but when I asked them, so what happens next? There was sort of tumbleweed. And it was even more embarrassing because I said, well, you've asked me to do this keynote. I said when I was preparing for it, I said, what happens after my keynote? What do you want them to have done? What's supposed to be delivered? And then tumbleweed. So that's quite common, that people actually do what they're asked to do without looking to the future. And especially when you talk about change or you talk about designing events, it's almost like the goal is to do the event. The goal is to kick off the change. The goal is to set up the team. And my analogy, which I use, is very much everyone focuses on the wedding and they forget that the marriage is where all the benefit comes. And hit and run is exactly that. You just focus on the first thing. And as a keynote speaker, I try and custom build every single talk I do to match what the client is trying to achieve. So that makes it a problem for me because I have to find out what they're trying to achieve. It makes a problem for them because guess what? They get embarrassed because they can't remember what they've been asked to achieve. They said, get a keynote speaker who will get everyone out. So they tick. I'm supposed to think about, well, actually, after that, they'll learn this, they'll do this, they'll work together, they'll be able to implement that. We'll get growth, whatever the outcome actually is. So everybody knows that if they do what they're told, they won't get into trouble. This is part of what's driving the tick mentality. And everybody knows that as a CEO, CXO, you're supposed to once a year at least give the state of the nation. So everybody knows that. What a few people know is that when you're thinking about your quote, KPIs for trying to drive change, you have to realize that you've got a longer series of activities. There's a need or an opportunity. That means that you have inputs. Those inputs have to then be processed or acted on or worked on in order to produce some sort of output. And then if you get the output right and you can put it into the market properly or with the right people, then you get an outcome and hopefully it's a benefit. It's quite a convoluted thing. Simply stating the need or simply saying what the vision is doesn't get you to an outcome. So some people know that, and then some people know even more that having done it once, it's unlikely to repeat itself. So they know they have to build a culture so it'll happen again. Those people also often know that if they can actually do a culture rather than just focusing on this year's strategy, they're more likely to deliver something of value. But all of that's wrong. Why is it wrong? Because the reality is the culture evolves as you're executing it, but you have to support that culture as it comes into fruition. At the same time as you're trying to do that, you don't know how to design the KPIs because you've never run the change, you've never run the event. So you just say, I hope the speaker is good and animated. So you actually have to approach it differently. So what no one else knows is that what you want to tell everyone is that it's not hit and run. You want to get their mindsets to the outcome, what happens, the benefits. So whether it's a speaker or an internal CXO or anyone else, you start off by saying, if this succeeds, what does good look like? Then we are hoping that, and tell them that outcome. And then you make it their problem to join the dots backwards to understand what their contribution is going to do. So that very much is what I try and get people to do. The tool I use for that is something called 2020 Vision. I get you to describe what people will be saying, what they'll be doing, where they'll be going. And then once I've got people to understand, or I've understood what the client's trying to do with that, then I go, right, well, in that case, I'll teach them how to listen to each other. I'll teach them how to get excited as leaders. I'll teach them how to understand how a market breaks down, and so on and so forth. Nice to talk.